The Case of the Red Room. One of the most chilling and disturbing legends surrounding the dark web is the story of the so-called Red Room, a term that has come to symbolize a grotesque corner of the internet where unimaginable horrors supposedly unfold. According to dark web lore, Red Rooms are live-streamed torture chambers where individuals can watch and, in some cases, interact with the suffering of others in real time. Before we start, make sure to watch till the end. Like and subscribe and leave a comment. The victims, often helpless and terrified, are subjected to extreme violence, and viewers can even pay to direct the torturer's actions, creating a twisted, interactive horror experience. Though no concrete evidence has ever surfaced to prove that such rooms exist as described, the stories persist, seeping through the shadows of the internet like whispers from a dark, forbidden world. One of the most infamous and terrifying accounts involves a man named John, who became unwittingly entangled in the dark web's most nightmarish myth. His tale, which he later shared on an online forum, would only add fuel to the growing fire of speculation about the true nature of the dark web and its hidden dangers. John's fateful exploration. It all began in 2014. John, a self-described curious internet explorer with a penchant for delving into the obscure corners of the web, had heard whispers of these notorious red rooms. The concept seemed too horrific to be real, but he couldn't shake the desire to know more. Drawn by a mix of morbid curiosity and skepticism, he decided to investigate the dark web, an underworld of the internet that few had ever dared to venture into. Using specialized software to access the dark web, John stumbled across what he initially thought was an innocuous forum. But as he scrolled through various threads, one particular post caught his attention: an invitation to join a private live stream. The title of the thread was cryptic: Watch, Control, Witness. John, intrigued but cautious, clicked on the link, which led him to a hidden page with a warning that the content was not for the faint of heart. Before he could fully comprehend what he was looking at, a new page loaded in front of him, showing a dimly lit room. At first glance, it looked like some kind of bizarre art installation or a scene from a violent movie. But as the camera zoomed in, John's stomach twisted into knots. There, strapped to a chair, was a woman, her eyes wide with terror, her body trembling with fear. She was clearly bound, unable to move or escape, her clothes torn and bloodied. The room was a stark, clinical red, lit by a few dim bulbs hanging from the ceiling, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. In the background, John could hear faint voices, distorted and muffled, suggesting that the audience was already present. The woman's panicked breathing was the only sound that seemed to break through the chilling silence of the room. It didn't take long for John to realize that this was no fictional setup. This was real. The interactive horror show. To John's horror, the stream wasn't just passive viewing. It was interactive. The more he watched, the more he understood the twisted reality behind the broadcast. People in the chat room were actively discussing what should happen next. There were options, horrific options, being suggested by the audience. Some viewers were paying in cryptocurrency to dictate what would happen to the woman, each donation unlocking a new, more gruesome act of violence. John sat frozen, unable to look away as he saw the woman subjected to unspeakable torture. The camera angles shifted in real time, giving the audience a sickening view of each agonizing moment. Viewers could make requests, choosing from a list of potential scenarios for the victim. The more they paid, the more intense and personal the horrors became. As the stream progressed, John realized that the audience members weren't just voyeurs. They were in control. The victim's suffering seemed to escalate with every new payment, each demand more depraved than the last. The woman's screams pierced the room, each one more desperate than the last. John, overwhelmed by the horror unfolding before him, tried to look away, but something kept him rooted to the spot. The fear of what he was witnessing was paralyzing. It wasn't a movie. It wasn't some staged performance. This was real, and the woman in the chair was a living, breathing person being subjected to unimaginable pain. The ominous warning. It was at this moment that John noticed something that froze him to his core. A message suddenly popped up on his screen. At first, he thought it was a glitch, some form of malicious code or a hacker's prank. But then, the words sent a cold shiver down his spine. Enjoying the show? We know who you are. The message was simple, but it was unmistakable. It wasn't a random pop-up. It was a direct threat, a chilling message that seemed to know something about John. His heart pounded as his mind raced. How could they know who he was? He had taken every precaution, used a VPN, encrypted his browsing, and ensured his identity was protected. Yet, here it was, an anonymous entity, somehow revealing his worst fear. His pulse quickened, and a sense of terror washed over him. Without thinking, John slammed his hand down on the power button, shutting down his computer in a panic. But the damage had already been done. The fear, the unease, it lingered in his mind long after the screen went black. The aftermath. Over the following days, John's life descended into a living nightmare. He began to notice strange occurrences. Eerie, cryptic emails arrived in his inbox, some with just a few unsettling words. "We saw you," or "You can't hide." At first, he thought it was just his mind playing tricks on him, but the messages grew more specific. They mentioned details about his personal life, his family, his location, his interests, that no one should have been able to access. Terrified, John went to the authorities, but they dismissed his concerns as an elaborate hoax or a case of paranoia. Still, the sense of being watched never left him. Every time he walked outside, he felt like someone was following him. Every time he checked his email, there was a new message waiting for him. John eventually disconnected from the internet altogether, severing all ties to his former life. But no matter where he went, no matter how far he tried to run, the feeling of being hunted never left him. The Red Room had left a mark on him, one that would haunt him for the rest of his days. The mystery of the Red Room. To this day, the existence of the Red Room remains a mystery. Some dismiss it as an urban legend, a dark web myth perpetuated by thrill-seekers and online conspiracists. Others insist that these rooms are real, hidden deep within the digital underworld, where the lines between reality and horror blur beyond recognition. For John, the experience was more than just a frightful tale. It was a haunting reality. Whether or not red rooms exist in the form that he witnessed, his story serves as a terrifying reminder of the dark, unregulated places lurking within the depths of the internet. In the world of the dark web, anonymity is power, and the horrors that await those who dare to explore it are beyond comprehension. The story of John and the legend of the Red Room reminds us that sometimes the greatest dangers online are the ones that remain hidden, waiting to ensnare the curious, the bold, and the unwary. And even if these rooms do not exist as we fear, the chilling possibility that they could is enough to keep anyone from venturing too far into the darkness. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.